Going live now. I guess we didn't get to try that soundtrack thing you wanted to try, right? Yeah.
That's okay.
You have it at the ready? Nope. Okay,
Uh,
well.
I got it. Hold on. No, I don't.
Okay. Well, Stardate 14038.217. This is obviously the Part-Time Movie Guy podcast because there is technical difficulties. I'm your host, Ben Lee. With me is Vanessa Cozini. Uh,
Hi.
we are going to be joined by Dorina very soon, Dorina Arellano. So let's just kind of, unfortunately, we have to blaze through the beginning part, I guess.
That's
This
okay. We'll
sponsored
work.
by Office Ninja, which is my movie. It's on iTunes. This podcast is uncensored. The bad word I have is barking at the ape, which is apparently a euphemism for cunnilingus.
Oh, that's new.
I don't even know how that imagery works.
Wait. How is how is it spelled?
Ape, like Planet of the Apes.
Huh. That's not a pretty picture they're painting.
And why are you barking at an ape? I don't understand. Did you prepare one yourself?
Yes. Mine's equally confusing. It's knockers, which are boobs, which you would not knock on a boob. I wouldn't want you to knock on a boob.
Well, it depends on, but I mean, I've heard them used before plenty of times because from Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein, when there's that scene where they're knocking on the giant
Mm-hmm.
door handles.
Hi, what knockers?
Yes. And she's like, oh, thank you. So
That movie was one big innuendo.
yes.
That's what I love about that movie.
Yep. And lastly, there will be spoilers. So the spoiler of this episode, aside from anything regarding Guardians of the Galaxy, is 1950s Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles. In the end, we are all Martians. So there you go. Or we become the Martians. So
Intriguing.
spoiled. All right. All right. So I had a ton of topics that I wanted to quickly jump through before getting to Guardians of the Galaxy, but since we're behind, let me just quickly blaze through it. Sharknado 2, I did not watch it. Apparently it was a thing on Twitter. Did you participate?
God, no.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I think our friend Alan Kistler said it best on Twitter. By technicality, you are a movie.
Speaking of things that I did not participate in, the Kim Kardashian iPad game or mobile game apparently is selling like hotcakes. The one thing that I found interesting from a screenshot was it's using the exact same interface that my Madden football iPad game uses. So from a software standpoint, it was just interesting to notice it used the same mechanisms of you can buy energy in the form of thunderbolts, which I think was brought to you by Gatorade or something like that. It's one of those things like, really, you're using the exact same interface, the exact same framework, but I guess that's just me being a computer person. All right, depressing stuff. Ray Rice, Ray Rice, he's an NFL player. Well, actually, this is probably more just outrage or something. He's an NFL player. He apparently knocked out his fiance and got caught on camera. He was only suspended 2 games. I think that's bullshit. Paul George, he's a basketball player who was playing for the men's national team. He broke his leg in a really ugly injury, and that's a bummer. The good thing in sports was that the San Antonio Spurs actually hired Becky Hammon, who played in the WNBA for a long time as an assistant coach. So, there's a long way before the NBA is going to have, female coaches and stuff, but that's a cool start. On to more, but back to more weird stuff. Did you hear about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie poster for Australia?
No.
So it was their release date in Australia was 9/11, and the poster showed the 4 turtles jumping out of an exploding building.
Oh, no.
But the thing is, okay, but 9/11 is an American tragedy, so apparently they had to pull it because the internet gets outraged over it. I mean,
well, I think it would have been more understandable if this was an Australian movie, but this is an American movie. That's the same thing
True.
in Australia.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still
It's
it's
so
really weird.
easy to start a worldwide incident. It's crazy. So,
Yeah. Speaking of starting incidences, uh, apparently this happened at San Diego Comic Con. A 17-year-old cosplayer was attacked, but
yes.
turns out she might have been just simply been drunk and had fallen 6 feet. But I
I
think
actually followed that.
yeah, I mean, it was interesting, and frankly, this maybe when the more facts come in on this, this will be a better topic to talk about in terms of how the internet and how we all behaved. Because, frankly, I was probably culpable in the immediate knee-jerk outrage about it.
I
About
think we all were.
we just because it's fascinating to look at if you Google like SDCC 17-year-old, like the first 5 hits are all very very vicious wordings, sensational wordings towards the suspect who is no longer a suspect right now, at least not in terms of sexual assault or anything like that. Um, and then the weird thing is also like there was supposed to be evidence of sexual assault. I don't know how you're sexually assaulted when you fall off a wall, but this is
Well, from what I do understand, which is very little, which is about what we all understand at this point, is she uh, was found and taken to the hospital. At that point, I assume they did preliminary exams, and that might have led to a suspected sexual assault of some kind.
hmm
Now, she claims she went with this guy to Comic-Con as friends, only friends,
uh-huh.
even though I believe he was older. And I don't know about you. I'm not going to send my teenage anywhere without, parental supervision. But that's me. That's me. I come from an Irish Italian family. I don't think I saw like the outside past midnight until I was 20.
hmm
So that's me. But from what I understand, she has two big black eyes and falling a very very short fall from a fence, a very very short fence. According to videos, according to the San Diego Police Department, which the mother has said is trying like hell to bury this. So that's one side of the coin, is the police trying to bury, a story that they don't want, to become too big of news, or was this just a drunken night gone wrong that got blown up a little bit? I mean, she's fully admitted that she never actually, from what I understand, never actually accused anybody. She woke up with very little memory and brain trauma from, lack of no, brain, lack of memory from brain trauma. Wow, that was way too hard. I might have a little brain trauma. But no, seriously though, I don't think we should blame the suspect or the girl or anybody because we don't know what really happened.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like I said, I'm guilty of jumping to conclusions about it. Hopefully, we'll get more details to figure out, like, is this a serious issue or not? I mean, well, there's some serious issues, obviously, here going on, but it could be more layers than we think it is. Um, yeah, it'll be, so I guess we'll keep an eye on that, I guess. But it's also interesting to see that still, right now, since the official uh, position is that it's an accident, yet if you Google it, the majority of it still thinks that it was a sexual assault. And so if it was an accident, that's very unfortunate because the person who was brought in, his name's all over the place, and there may be some similarities with the Richard Jewell case from like the Atlanta bombing from the Olympics back in '92. That's what it reminded me of. One more depressing thing is the Studio Ghibli is on hiatus.
No, I heard that, and I don't want it to be true. I
Yeah,
don't.
but also like Hayao Miyazaki's been retired for like a year now. I mean, again, this is maybe one of those things where like there's still like not enough information to know what the heck's going on with that.
I
Um,
hear it's a temporary thing That's the only thing I have heard about it. I didn't actually click on the link. It had enough information in the title. More.
The BBC article I read, I think, didn't give that much more information. It was, but you know, it was basically like speculations about just it being divided into different arms, and maybe it's got to change different strategies because now their main guy, their main moneymaker, is not on the roster. So I think just hopefully, you know, they can regroup and churn out some more good stuff.
They have turned out the best stuff. That's why it made me cry when I heard about that, because I mean even people who aren't anime fans know them.
Yeah.
You know.
Usually, yeah, with a lot of help from Pixar. I am gassy on air. All right, so those were some of the stuff going through my head. Did you have anything minor-ish?
Minor. My brain is a vast and empty place at this moment in time. Gosh, no, I have to say no.
Okay. All right, well, let's get to our main topic. Apparently, Dorina is watching us as we talk. So, Dorina, if you'd like to sign on, let's see how a mid-stream sign-on goes.
This is going to be lovely.
Yeah.
By the way, for people who are just listening, I have pins that I'm just holding up against the camera one at a time. Yeah. I've got Rocket Raccoon. I have Star-Lord. Gamora.
So let's also just rewind really quick to the reason for the technical difficulties.
Yeah.
This is to go against gender roles where girls are the tech unsavvy. This is me where I was showing Vanessa, because Vanessa was trying out a new microphone, so I went through the Google settings on my side to try to tell her, oh, try this to get the mic setting going on. And somehow I turned my mic into the speaker.
Which I can't talk from his place.
Hello, Dorina is on the air.
Am I there? I don't know what's going on. I just clicked the button.
All right, button, go places.
I think I did it.
Sweet.
You're here. We're happy.
All right. So Dorina meet Vanessa. Vanessa meet Dorina.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Dorina.
I like your shirt because I like comics and just the word "fuck" is awesome. So.
Yeah, I didn't have a Guardians of the Galaxy shirt, so I figured this will be appropriate.
Oh, I'm actually wearing my Wonder Woman shirt because.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, that's DC.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and Marvel has way too many supporters, so I'm wearing my DC stuff. Sorry.
Oh no! A foe. I think in one of the podcasts I said I was one of those diehard Marvel fans from the beginning, and I used to get in those Marvel versus DC debates.
Oh yeah. Well, I actually grew up reading X-Men comic books, so that's actually my favorite, and then Batman. But the rest of Marvel, I'm not like a huge fan. I just love X-Men, and that's it. So.
We'll find a way to convert you. I'll find a way.
All right. Yeah. So I guess Dorina, why don't you give yourself a quick intro for those who do not know who you are?
I'm just a nerd, an evil nerd, and I like comic books and also sports, especially soccer and hockey. And I know Ben because I actually ended up composing the music to his nerdy movie, Office Ninja. So that's me.
Were you on one of his other podcasts not too long ago?
Probably a soccer one.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so...
He's been on, like, the last 2 World Cup episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, like, shy away and, like, never, ever, because I'll be stupid and call it soccer or something. I don't know what...
I mean, honestly, ever since I moved to this country, I just call it soccer now, because it's just easier, because otherwise I have to say football instead of football. So.
Football?
Yeah, see, I'm the snob that's trying to call it football. Like, I'm the hipster now. I guess that's what it's not a sports snob. It's a sports hipster, I guess, a shipster or something. All right, so I guess I'm assuming all three of us have seen Guardians of the Galaxy. Vanessa, why don't you go first and tell us what you thought about the movie?
I loved it. It was amazing. I was honestly hooked from the opening scene, which was great. It was a perfect, oh gosh, what was the word? It was a perfect way to tone a movie. You know, the opening scene always tells you if you're watching a dark movie or a comedy. And in this case, we were definitely watching a comedy. And that was just beautifully. Well, actually, no, the very first scene
Hold on,
was.
time out. The mom dying? Set the mood?
Wait. I was thinking of the other first scene.
Okay, because, yeah, I mean, it kind
I
of
was going to say, that was really depressing.
kind of pulled an up move on us. I would say.
Sorry. Obviously, I don't have notes or anything for this. Oh, Lord. No, I mean the scene where he's an adult and he's singing along, you know, grabbing rats, kicking them. That was great. Yeah, the very first scene. It was showing us this is an emotional piece. And then the following first scene was showing us that it was a comedy. And I thought that it was really good because, yeah, there was a lot of parts in the movie where it was kind of put into our face. This is emotional. You need to care about this. And, you know, there was some of the movies there were actually parts of the movie I didn't like, but that aside, I know I can always pop it in the DVD player and, you know, have a big old smile watching them, you know, dance to old 70s, 80s tunes.
All right, and I liked it a lot as well. I'm guessing Dorina, basically, I was originally this was just going to be me and Vanessa talking, and then suddenly I caught Dorina's Facebook post. Basically, well, she didn't. You don't hate the movie, but you didn't love it like everyone else, and so basically you said, "Come at me, nerds."
And here we are.
Nerds were gonna come at me with like pitchforks or something because that's how I've always felt. Like if I say I didn't like a Marvel movie, it's like you're wrong and you deserve to die. So
yeah, that's the internet.
I don't know what it is.
So what's your opinions about the movie?
I went in because it's a Marvel movie and I'm not obsessed with them like most people. I still went in with low expectations, knowing it was going to be a fun, just comedy with fun actors, and I actually ended up enjoying it. But I did find myself several times during the movie where the whole audience was just like dying in laughter, and I was sitting there like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, am I like a soulless alien? Like, why am I not laughing so hard? Because I did laugh, like, I definitely laughed out loud a few times, but not as hard as everyone else, you know? And I don't know if it was because some of the jokes were a little bit too predictable for me, personally, you know? Like, I kind of knew that was coming, and I'm like, yep, I know what you're doing, okay. Yep, figured out you were going to say that, raccoon, again, because you're an asshole and I'm an asshole, and maybe I identified myself, I don't know. But so in general, I enjoyed it, but it was weird to see that everybody thought it was like the best movie of the summer, let alone the year. Like, I thought that was really weird because I think James Gunn has done other movies that I like better, like Slither, and he wrote, I think, Dawn of the Dead, which I think was directed by Zack Snyder, I forget. But so those two movies are fun if you're into like the horror genre. So I think he's a good director and a good writer, you know. And the cast was lovely. Like, everybody's super likable. Chris Pratt is great, you know. But I didn't think it was like Indiana Jones or Star Wars like everybody else was calling it. You know, like I was like, okay, like you're going a little too far. Like, I don't think it's a classic. I think it's fun, and I would totally take my kid. Like, if I had a kid, I would take it, and I think it's a fantastic kids movie. But I don't think it's this like amazing like, you know, great movie that's going to be a classic in years to come. So that's kind of how I felt. I was just like, meh, it was cool. Don't really need to see it again, you know. Sorry.
I will not nerd rage at you, I promise. I will respectfully disagree. I
figured most people would. You know, yeah, I wasn't I didn't think it was so hilarious, and I also wasn't like super like the emotional scene. I was just like, no, I know what they're doing. I'm just not super like invested, except for Groot. I fucking love Groot. He was fantastic.
Right?
He was adorable.
Groot's the best character.
He was great. But I also was really annoyed at the soundtrack. I know everybody's gonna hate me for saying this. But being a music supervisor, I was like, really? Like, you could have, like, you can't put David Bowie and then Blue fucking Suede in the same soundtrack. Because David Bowie's amazing and Blue Suede is not.
Oh, that was a little mean. Blue Suede's amazing. What are you talking about? You gotta love that.
Like, at least play the original BJ Thomas version. That's amazing. Not this shit one.
Well, from the soundtrack point of view, I felt it was really good to, like, personally, you know, being, you know, kid of the 80s, 90s,
right,
always in my dad's car, I heard a lot of those songs. So it felt really appropriate. You know, some of them, yes, some of them I was, like, really surprised with. But for the most part, I felt like, oh, yeah, I would totally see, you know, one of my parents making me a mixed track tape of songs, although I don't think I'd love them as much as he did. Right. But he has a different reason to love them as much as he does. But I thought, you know, the song choices were really good given the reason for them. Because not a lot of times do you have such a pivotal reason for songs in a movie.
Yeah, no, I see the reason behind it. I just think he should have, if you're picking David Bowie and the Runaways, at least pick other songs that are equally as good, not the fucking Pina Colada song. Like, there's no need to add that one in there.
Oh, everybody secretly loves that song.
Maybe as a Mexican I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I'm a music snob, so, you know, it's not the soundtrack that made me, like, dislike it or anything. It's just one of the things that it was distracting me from the story, you know?
Well, I mean, as a tonally, I mean, I don't know that music as well as you do, Dorina, but, I mean, having cheesy songs makes sense in the tone of most of that movie. I mean, it's you know, it's a swashbuckling, campy romp. Well, is it? Yeah, it's campy-ish. I wouldn't say it's real camp, but you know, I felt like it was a good addition to it. I would say there's probably other movies that probably have, you know, done soundtracks better than that, but
well, there's Quentin Tarantino, you know.
Yeah, but he's on a level.
Not everybody can be Quentin Tarantino.
I'm just saying that you can use Martin Scorsese uses music really well. You know, well, maybe not in Wolf of Wall Street, but all his other movies. You know,
I think we'll just forgive him Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, I definitely came out originally thinking like, wow, this actually might be my favorite movie of the summer. You know, I laughed a lot through it. It's interesting that you, Dorina, you found a lot of the jokes to be predictable. I'm going to.
I'm a huge Joss Whedon nerd. I don't know.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Few of the articles I read, you know, someone actually said maybe they did a better Joss Whedon impression than Joss Whedon's Avengers. Like they pointed out how like the bickering in here felt more organic, and the bickering in Avengers felt like a stage play. Like, and I haven't seen Avengers in a long time, but I thought that was a pretty interesting point from, I forgot which writer, but it was probably from Grantland.
I want to devil's advocate that for a second, because I actually don't agree with that. It was the one part of the movie that I think kind of pulled me out a little bit, was when different characters started giving their sob stories, and it felt a little forced. Mm-hmm. And I felt in Avengers, you'd already had all the build-up, so you didn't really need to hear it. I felt like they're bickering, you know, doth wear your, you know, mother's drapes and all that. That, for me, was really Joss. I grew up a huge Buffy fan, huge Joss fan. It is Whedon's world. We just live in it. But I felt like this movie could have used a little more Joss magic, maybe, a little less. Everybody has to cry real quick in front of the camera.
Yeah, I agree with Vanessa. I think it's actually the opposite. I actually felt like this movie was more forced and less organic than the Avengers. I think the Avengers also had its flaws, obviously, but because I don't think the Avengers was completely Joss Whedon. I feel like half of it was Joss Whedon and the other half was the studio.
And remember that there's a good third of it that's Robert Downey Jr. doing his own thing.
Yeah, exactly. No, like I said, I agree with Vanessa, and that's kind of how I felt about the humor in this movie in general. Like, I felt like there was all of these jokes that were coming and we're supposed to laugh, but it's not as witty as I thought it was going to be or as witty as I think it should be. And maybe I have, like, a ridiculous, like, I don't know, Louis C.K. dark humor that I expect, something else. And I understand this is obviously a family movie,
So yeah, I mean, you said you're a fan of Slither, and Slither I know was a comedy horror.
Yeah.
I don't.
Dawn of the Dead as well.
Dawn of the Dead was not. But like, would you say like, was there?
Dawn of the Dead was comedy too.
Oh, it was? Okay. So James Gunn's sense of humor, do you feel like it was? Were you expecting something more similar to Slither? Is that why you were like?
No, I was just expecting to laugh my ass off, and I didn't.
I did.
I was just expecting to have fun, and I did laugh my ass off in a couple of scenes, like when Rocket tells him to steal the leg.
Yes.
That was really funny. And then when what's his name? Drax is talking about like, everything with the metaphor. Like,
well, the best line is the nothing goes.
Was really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, Drax's line of nothing goes over my head because of my muscle reflexes was probably the best line I've ever heard in a long time.
Yeah, but you guys both have to admit, I Am Groot is never going to die.
Well, it's the new Hodor.
That's a great way of putting it.
So, since I've never seen Game of Thrones, although I do know who Hodor is, but so what Groot reminds me of, so I have trouble figuring out who my favorite character is. I think I liked all of them a lot. Groot makes me just want to rewatch The Iron Giant because that's Vin Diesel's movie too.
Yeah.
I keep vacillating between Rocket Raccoon because like about 5 minutes in, I completely forgot it was Bradley Cooper. I was really surprised by his voice performance that I totally forgot it was him. After a while. Yeah, of course, yeah, I have to love Chris Pratt. He did a great job as Star-Lord. He carries it. I felt like Zoe Saldana's role felt a bit diminished. I mean,
thank you for saying that.
It's Saldana. I mean, in Spanish, but
oh, sorry.
I think, or Saldana. I don't know.
I don't look it, but I'm actually not.
I've only seen I've only read 1 or 2 issues of like Guardians of the Galaxy, so I don't know what exactly her character is like. But it felt like I forgot. A friend of mine felt like that Gamora's character was the least like the comic books, and that she was too nice. Like they made her a little too girly or something like that.
In the movie or in the comics?
In the movie. I don't know if I'm guessing you guys disagree with that sentiment.
Yeah, I felt she was pretty okay with, being a badass in and of herself. Actually, my best friend who I went and saw it with, when we came out, one of her scenes was one of the ones we discussed, and we talked about how it was really funny how she, has a certain way of speaking, and she's, pretty proper and, very articulate and self-assured, and in that moment where they almost kiss, she kind of flounders a little in like how she's like, I'm not, one of those girls you can just, woo, and I can't remember her exact words or anything, but, she gets a lot less articulate when, she has a knife to his throat after he tried to kiss her, because I thought it was well done. I thought she was well done personally, but I haven't, and this is going to be the one time I will ever say this in the podcast, I've never read the comic. And I'm wearing a Read More Comics shirt.
Well, you can't read them all.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
also have to sleep. And, she didn't bother me at all. It felt like, and I think we already mentioned this, like some people were comparing the movie to Star Wars and Indiana Jones. And, like they were saying you have the Han Solo type guy and you have the Princess Leia type guy, type girl, I'm sorry. And it's true. Like, I think these were kind of little cute copies and they were kind of paying tribute to all those movies. I prefer Galaxy Quest as a tribute and parody.
There's going to be a sequel.
Yay! So I mean, I think they did a good job. I just think they weren't as developed maybe as we wanted it to be. But I mean, Star Wars was 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be more movies here where we might get to know the characters better. Because Chris Pratt, somebody said, I think it was some critic that actually hated legit the movie. I didn't hate it, but he said that he thought Chris Pratt was like a frat boy Indiana Jones, and I could kind of see that. A little bit. Like, he was using bro a lot.
I mean, the vibe that I get is you're not supposed to take this movie seriously. I mean, again, we're talking about talking raccoons and trees, and you have giant ass Thanos just popping up for like 2 seconds, with Infinity Stones, and you've got like Benicio del Toro trying to be as weird as possible.
With a fantastic hairdo, by the way.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I just want to go fantastic. It's like that one thing he does, and then even Rocket imitates it. It was just beautiful.
I lost my train of thought.
You were saying how you're not supposed to take this movie seriously.
Yeah. So that's why I don't feel like I needed to like feel invested in the characters, as long as they were, because it's not to put too much similarities to like Indiana Jones, but like you don't really know Indiana Jones's backstory that much. You don't feel all the pathos in.
But him. You don't need to know it. You don't need to know the origin story to care about a character, though.
Exactly, and obviously made Star-Lord's backstory as explicit as possible, and it's probably a little bit manipulative that way. But I didn't feel like I had to be invested in all the other ones, so I was okay with it. I mean, it was kind of like just brushing it off. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but so that's why like I wasn't expecting super witty banter. I wasn't expecting like massive pathos or anything like that, which probably is why at the end the climax of that it takes all 4 of them to like cheesily put their hands together and everything. That actually I thought was kind of effective for me, because it is the theme, I guess, is family. So
yeah, like if you look at the actual like the main plot and what's at the heart of the movie, they definitely pull that off. You have like these loser or outcast people that become family in the end because they have nobody else, which is great. It's a really sweet story, and that's why I think it's a good kids movie. I just think that the way they did it, it's like, well, then all this other stuff that's going on isn't really that necessary, is it? Like, you don't need to make it that long of a movie if that's all you're trying to do.
You kind of almost were waiting for them to say, Ohana means family.
Yeah.
But yeah, from a writer's perspective, I think I was really good with Star-Lord's story and with Gamora's story. Drax, once they got to Drax, I was like, okay, we're getting into tropes. And then Rocket getting drunk and going, I didn't ask to be made. And in that moment where he said that, I actually rolled my eyes, and I know that is not the intended, feeling for the audience at all. What they want you to feel is, sympathy, and I do feel sympathy for anybody who doesn't ask to be what they are, and that gives a lot of good discussions for, you know, oh, I lost the word. Somebody help me. It'll come back to me.
I'm bilingual, so don't ask me.
No, I felt like, yes, it was good that all these characters had some tragedy to them, but I felt like you were getting too much into everybody had a stereotypic trope. You know, you had the guy that lost his daughter and wife, and that, you know, was like his only motivation was getting back at that guy. And Gamora, who was angry because she was made into a killing machine, and Star-Lord, you know, being uprooted, and Rocket didn't ask to be made, and I am Groot because I am Groot.
Because he's kind of the cute Hodor character.
Yeah.
No, and you actually just your I think your point is actually helping me think about some what the main reason why I didn't love it so much is actually because they like you said, they kind of have all the right, they're pulling on the right strings, you know, they have all the right characters and and all the stereotypical characters in a movie, and like they have all the ingredients to make you feel a certain way, or to make the audience emotional or involved in the story. But that's what made it feel a little bit forced for me. It's weird because it's a super fantastical world that we've never seen if you didn't read the comic. And so that aspect of it is really cool. But if you take the sci-fi fantasy aspect away from it, I think it's actually nothing I've never seen before. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, that's exactly the problem is, yeah, it was a little bit too much of, oh, I've seen that, and I was actually waiting for that moment when Rocket broke down, and I was waiting for Drax to have a really ridiculously easy reason, and I say ridiculously easy reason because I think, you know, man who's lost his wife and child is one of the most overused tropes in gaming and movies, my own personal opinion. But I still love the movie. I still will see it 1,000 times. I'm going to drag everybody I know to see it who hasn't seen it yet because it's fun to watch, it's hilarious, and it's in space. And I do think you make a good point. If it wasn't, I don't think I would like it as much as I do. If it wasn't in this, you know, Cineverse, and if you didn't have I Am Groot and, you know, some crazy raccoon stealing people's legs and eyeballs and other things because he thinks it's funny. I don't know if you guys have seen it. All over Tumblr, there's been a thing of when Avengers and Guardians have a meetup, Rocket's going to ask for Winter Soldier's arm.
Oh.
So I guess a few things that I'm thinking about is, as I'm trying to think of three things at the same time, none of them come out at the same time. One thing is, for me, having watched a lot of WWE, I was surprised by Drax, by Dave Bautista's performance, because as a wrestler, he's actually really boring. He has very little charm in the ring, and I was really surprised. Like, he actually delivered his lines really well, like as a guy who does not understand metaphors. And so that and the writing for his character, the way he talks, is really, really funny. And so that's I'm not saying like he's my favorite character because yeah, his backstory is fun. Like he's not fun by himself, but with those people, that's what, you know, he's really good. He was really good at being set up and setting up his other fellow actors. The one thing I really liked about this movie was that it wasn't just, it's colorful, and it kind of goes away from the recent trend of trying to gritty up everything. I mean, it still had the annoying, like, an airplane must crash into a city at the climax, which I think has been in every single Marvel movie and every other blockbuster-ish movie.
Or how about the boring-ass villain? That's
yeah,
not...
I mean, oh yeah, that was the one thing, like, it was kind of funny to see that Nebula versus Gamora was basically Star Trek versus Doctor Who, although I thought Karen Gillan's like talent was wasted in that character. Marvel's never really done any like interesting bad guys. There's very few like there's been very few memorable arch villains except for Loki, possibly.
Well,
that's my opinion.
In the
I'll
movie.
have to agree because there are, and if they give Thanos a movie where he can really be Thanos, then we'll be able to. I really hate that this is the second movie where he's been a tool and not what he really is. Yeah, he gives power to people and he lets people do a lot of the dirty work for him, but he is, without a doubt, he courts death. Literally. She's
Yeah, but I don't think Disney's going to let them have that death part, which is very interesting. Like, I was listening to a podcast. They're very cynical about how the Marvel movie is made. Basically, kind of pointing out.
Which one is it? I should listen to it. Which one is it? I should listen to it.
Oh, it's the Grandland Network. So they have a bunch of different podcasts, but one of them talks a lot about movies. And basically, their point is, like, for example, Josh Brolin did not need to be in this movie. There probably did not need to be all these Easter eggs when you could have taken the time to maybe flesh out a better character or a better story or tried something different than crashing an airplane into a building.
Or a cooler-looking villain without seaweed on his face.
You know, they actually even made fun of it in the movie. Didn't they say he was a pouty little baby? And he does pout through the whole movie. He really does.
Yeah, I mean, so, like, yeah, Ronan the Accuser, I don't know who the heck he is, but, I mean, he was alright. I thought it was, the podcast had a really good point, was like, why are you showing and talking about the Kree and showing Ronan the Accuser when you actually should show a regular Kree first, so you know the difference between a regular peaceful Kree and Ronan the, insane bad guy. That's a little bit of storytelling that I think that I agree with, but and I lost my train of thought again. But yeah. So.
Well, backing off of that a little bit, there was a lot of things they could have done slower, could have given you more build-up. I felt a lot of it was a little rushed. I think this would have been better to be a TV show rather than a movie because you have more time to get into the characters' backstories gradually, organically, and I still do love the movie, although I've been saying a lot of mean things about it. I still think that this movie could have been, I know.
She is evil, she will turn us.
I will make you fans, I will. But I think this could have been better as a TV show, given more time to go into the backstories, given more time to see what Krees? I feel like George W. Bush. Is it Grecians? Is it Greeks? I don't know.
Girls, gruel or cool? Cool, gruel, great.
So I think they could have done more if they had more time. Time is always the biggest issue when making any movie, and it's always the reason why, certain really good things get edited out. Pacing's always another reason why, and I think this movie was great. It could have been better. I'm really hoping that the sequels will be better because now we have their backstories. Now we have, the introduction to these characters. And just like the Avengers was a buildup of all of these different movies, we didn't need to go into their backstories. And I think that's what made Avengers so good, was we all went in going, we know who these characters are. We know what their sob stories are. Let's just get to the fun and the action.
I guess my complaint in general, not just with this movie, but a lot of not just Marvel movies, but also superhero movies, is I don't know why, and this could be just my preference, but I feel like half of the movie is always, character development and cool, like, emotional scenes, and then the other half is a ton of special effects, characters fighting with each other.
That's a very unfortunate truth of all movies.
Yeah, which is really boring to me, and it has nothing to do with the special effects because I have friends in the VFX industry who do great things and create really cool characters that are actually like, you know, they make you cry, and it has nothing to do with it being like a shit ton of like, you know, banthas like in the prequels or whatever, you know. But so it's not the effects, it's just I think the way they're used, and they're not enhancing the story, they're more so just like, oh look, that looks really cool, so let's put it in there for like 30 minutes and then forward. I think that's, I don't know why they end up doing that.
Well, there were certain effects a lot of people went over a lot of people's heads because they didn't realize it was technically Easter egging. The Nova Corps group. The Nova Corps group is kind of a little shout out to Nova, which is an amazing and interesting character in the, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy universe. I think he even has his own comic. I know what I read off Wikipedia, by the way. Little disclaimer there. I went home after the movie and read a crap ton on Wikipedia. But, you know, the Nova Corps group was a shout out to Nova, and I think that it was important, if they're going to bring Nova into the next movie, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy movies, for you to have a starting point going, oh, well, we've heard of the Nova Corps group, and this guy's named Nova, so there's going to be a connection somewhere. And it was interesting. Certain effects I actually really liked. The little webbing effect where they were all trying to not let the big crazy ship land, and they were all kind of like netting together. I thought that was actually very interesting.
Yeah, I thought it looked cool. I just wasn't excited. Like during those action sequences, like I liked. Actually, I think my favorite Marvel movie is the second Captain America, and then the Avengers, and then the other one. Sorry, I'm like meh. But the reason I like Captain America is because there at the beginning scene with Nick Fury, when he's like, you know, freaking out in his car and they're shooting at him, that whole action sequence I thought was really exciting. And I rarely feel like that in some superhero movies. Like, a lot of people hated Man of Steel, but I was really excited when they were fighting. You know,
I'll tell you.
Sorry?
I was going to say, you know, that those fighting scenes, the one thing every director and person who makes a movie wants to happen is for you to be glued to the screen the entire time. 4 minutes into the fight scene, I'm looking at my watch. I'm looking at my phone. In the theater, I've never done that before, by the way. I was so bored just watching destruction for destruction. There's no good reason for a lot of it.
Well, yeah, so that's my point about when I see, like, you know, like at the end of the Avengers, or the second half, when all those, like, really boring, dumb villains that are, like,
whatever the big space
Loki, like, they're all fighting them, and I'm just like, this is really boring. Like, I don't care.
Did we ever find out what planet they're from?
Sorry?
Did we as moviegoers ever find out what planet those creatures were from?
No.
I don't know.
Didn't really care.
Exactly. Like, I just don't care. Like, at least in Man of Steel, I cared about that really awesome, badass supervillain that was a chick, and she was kicking Superman's ass. Like, that was way more interesting to me. You know? Yeah, it lasted way long because Zack Snyder's like that. But at least they're, you know, it just make the character that's on the screen, make them interesting. That's my only complaint, and I see it in every single superhero movie.
Like, so I'm going to steer the direction a little bit back to the Marvel movies. One thing I find, and this has been kind of actually a general thing to me, the pattern I've been noticing, and I think I've said this before, is I feel like movies, because Vanessa, you talked about you wish this was a TV show, I find it ironic that I think movies now are turning into basically safe franchises. You know how, like, this is the problem with comic book movies, is everything has to stay the same, and that's why the stakes usually aren't as powerful in a lot of those Marvel movies, because everyone's got to still live for the next movie. It's almost as if, and now you see, like, shows, anthology shows that are really well done right now. Like Breaking Bad has a beginning, middle, and end. True Detective, beginning, middle, end. You know, American Horror Story. And so oddly enough, it's now the TV shows that have gone the movie route of having a good beginning, middle, and end, and now you have all these movie franchises that are either rebooting themselves or having sequels or trying to lay Easter eggs for future sequels and kind of just doing the same thing over and over again. Every summer we know this is going to happen. Every summer now, for the next 5 years at least, we know there's going to be at least a Marvel movie and a Star Wars movie. Whether, you know, from a cynical point of view, it's like that's how they're going to do that. That's their episodes.
You
So,
know,
It's all about money.
yeah.
Oh, it's all about money.
oh yeah. I
Yeah.
read an article somewhere that said with the flooding of superheroes in movies, that once it gets so overcrowded and so predictable, and we all stop caring, and this was a really weird article. It was said that's when Comic-Con's going to be worth going to again, because nobody will be going anymore, because nobody will care anymore. Geek will stop being chic.
We'll see about that, because now Comic-Con right now has been co-opted not just for movies, but for TV shows. And if TV shows are going to be profitable, basically, you know, I honestly don't know. I probably can't really say because I haven't been to enough comic book conventions to know, you know, just how much media co-ops can co-opt those places. But yeah, but I do agree that we probably should expect a critical mass of superhero movies where then the audience slowly turns away. We obviously hope that happens with Fox. Well, as a Marvel person, I hope it happens with Fox and whoever else, so they lose X-Men and Spider-Man and they can join the Avengers, blah, blah, blah. But
X-Men is awesome. You
Well,
guys
no.
Future Past?
Sorry.
sorry, what? I didn't catch what Dorina said.
Oh, no, Days of Future Past was awesome. I have no problem with that movie.
That was really good. Yes, I like that one and X-Men First Class a lot. But I mean, but you also, I mean, obviously from a a comic book nerd standpoint, you know, it would be kind of cool to watch an X-Men versus Avengers movie or something
I
like
agree, but have Fox do it because I like their movies better than the Marvel movies.
that.
Well, I think no matter who owns, what, I think eventually everything's going to have to fall under one umbrella, because they made a huge mistake with having two different Quicksilvers. And that upset a lot of moviegoers to hear, or not moviegoers, I'm sorry, it upset a lot of nerds to hear that there's going to be two different versions of the same character coming out less than a year apart from each other, because Quicksilver is an Avengers character, but he's also the son of Magneto. And they can't say that.
Spoiler.
Spoilers. Oh yeah, this is a spoiler zone. Total spoiler.
I question about, I was curious about that in terms of the rights, but basically what they explained is, you can't mention the M word when you're in Avengers land, and you cannot mention the A word when you're in X-Men land. So.
And what's really sad about it is that so many times the twins, Wanda and Pietro, have fought their father as Avengers. Mm-hmm. It happens more often.
That's part of their appeal. That's part of their lore, is that they are the ones that turn. But yeah.
What's his name? The guy that's going to be the new Quicksilver, Aaron Johnston or something like that.
Yeah,
he has a lot to live up to, because I love this kid.
I was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised by Days of Future Past Quicksilver. Yeah. Granted, it was more for comic relief. I mean, thing is, Aaron Johnson is a really good actor because he was Kick-Ass.
Yeah, but he was pretty bad in Godzilla, or maybe he was just boring. He wasn't bad.
His character's just naturally boring in Godzilla. I mean, like, basically, Godzilla was like, here, Bryan Cranston, just act the hell out of this movie. Hey, Scarlet Witch, act the hell out of your part of the movie. And then the rest of it was really, really good monster movie stuff. Anyway, sorry, we're diverting. We're kind of running out of time here, so as we're wrapping up,
I have to ask one question.
Yes.
What did you guys think of that after credit moment?
With
Cosmo?
No, with fucking Howard the Duck, dude.
Yeah, Howard the Duck.
That was
like,
awesome.
That was like the most like Easter egg of Easter eggs, because seriously, like, what?
You know what's funny? I could tell who in the audience was what age in that exact moment.
Because they had no idea who he was.
Yeah, I heard a bunch of teenagers go, what, who's he? And then I hear old people go, oh my God, Howard! And I'm one of them going, oh my God, it's Howard the Duck. And, you know, I got to say that was a more better-looking Howard the Duck than in the 80s. It looked a lot more like it was supposed to.
Well,
And,
the one in the 80s was terrifying.
oh, God, wasn't it? Nightmares.
Yep.
But I kind of hope that they might end up having Howard the Duck random, just cameo, you know, randomly in a scene for no good reason, because it's actually what he does in the comics. He doesn't actually have a role in the comics. He randomly cameos.
I mean, this Guardians of the Galaxy universe is weird enough that it's plausible. It's totally fine. I mean, for God's sakes, they have, like, Cosmo running about now, which, you know, I guess he's supposed to be head of security of nowhere. Yeah. But that was my email. I guess to wrap it up, I guess any final thoughts you guys wanted to talk about of this movie? Like, what was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part? Or, yeah. Vanessa, why don't you go first?
Okay. My favorite part is Groot dancing. It was adorable. It'll stay in my mind forever. And I am Groot. I am Groot. My least favorite part was probably when when I didn't ask to be made, because it was so obvious and a little forced.
How about you?
Is it my turn, or are you going to go?
Sure, you can go.
I actually did love Groot as well. I don't think anybody can hate him. He's great. And actually, one of my favorite parts, and I knew it was coming, but when he's kicking the shit out of those guys, and then he like turns around and just smiles like he's like this like cute like little puppy. Like I totally knew that was coming, but I still loved it. It was great.
Yeah.
That was a really good moment. And I mean, the least favorite, it's just overall, like I said, I expected to really, really like it a lot, and I didn't. And I think it's just because I'm used to Marvel just, you know, trying to play with the audience's emotions a little bit and throwing puns here and there, and I'm kind of getting sick of the same gimmicks, and I want to see, I know we saw a different universe, but I would like to see just a different type of story in these movies. So hopefully I'll get it eventually.
Okay, so you didn't feel like it was not weird enough. It was superficially weird, but it wasn't like different enough from any of the other like Marvel factory-made movies.
Right. The story, it didn't tug at my heartstrings, and I know they're really hard to find, but it would be cool to eventually feel something towards a superhero.
We're gonna get you to watch A Walk to Remember.
Oh God, I did watch that, and I did. No, my friend made me watch that, and it was terrible. I was so angry that I like left the movie theater, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm gonna leave you here. I know you're crying, but I hate this movie." And
wow.
Yeah.
Wait, this is the one where Keanu Reeves throws up on a girl or something.
No. This is Shane West and Mandy Moore, and she has cancer.
Oh, okay.
Who is fantastic in Saved, if you guys haven't seen that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Saved is a great movie.
That's a good one.
But Walk to Remember is not.
Okay.
Sorry.
Just don't tell my best friend. He will come at you with a pitchfork. Fair warning.
Yeah, so my favorite, again, is probably just the "nothing goes over my head" line. I don't know who my favorite character is. And then I guess my main complaint would be that I felt like, at least at the beginning, there's like way too many characters, way too many like locations to keep track of. You know, yeah, if we got rid of some of the, you know, the obligatory giving everybody a sad backstory, maybe that would have helped. And then like, you know, you're kind of wasting like Glenn Close's talent, you're wasting like Josh Brolin's talent, you're wasting Kieran Gillen's talent. Just trying to throw in all those people in there, you know, it could have just been Ronan the whole time, and it might have made things a little bit smoother. I mean, overall, still, visually, it was definitely weirder than most. of the Marvel movies, and that's what stood out to me. And maybe, yeah, just maybe I thought, whatever cliches they were doing it really, really well. And that's why it was still, you can still enjoy it even if it's cliched, if it's done well. But I do understand what Dorina's talking about. I can see where you're coming from with feeling that you've been there, done that with a lot of the story and storytelling.
Yeah. Next.
I am Groot.
In conclusion, I am Groot. We are Groot.
We are Groot. I did cry. I did cry at that moment. Oh God, that was so sad.
So what's the next Marvel movie? Is it going to be Avengers 2?
Let me look. I could tell you in like 2 seconds.
Because I definitely know, San Diego Comic-Con had a lot of stuff with the Age of Ultron stuff. But because everyone's gotten their
Marvel Cinematic Universe. Hawkeye still needs a movie.
Black Widow could use a movie, and
yeah.
I mean,
Black Widow got to be in Captain America.
I know, but she needs her own movie.
No, yeah, and I heard Lucy was actually pretty good, but that doesn't count. Actually, I heard the Lucy movie. People joked it's basically the prequel to Her.
What?
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Vanessa.
The next movie is Avengers. Then we have Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, that's what they have in the lineup.
Yeah, it's a pity Edgar Wright isn't doing Ant-Man anymore.
I know. When he left, I was like, see? They're all assholes, and he knows, and that's why he left.
I mean, it definitely does, yeah, support the whole theory that, it's just a big factory machine, and if you're, you can kind of put your stamp on it a little bit, but then leave, like, the big, like, plots and special effects to us.
When does Avengers come out?
Should be next summer, right?
Is it competing against the new Superman? Is it competing against the new Superman?
Let me see. Superman versus Batman. Dawn of Justice.
16. I don't know.
That's 2016.
Okay.
You're correct.
Dang.
Yep. So they have a lot of movies that are possibly going to be made soon. Soon would be nice. And that would be, I keep hearing about Doctor Strange. Could they please make a Doctor Strange movie? Hey, they do have an announcement for it, and it says to be released July 8th, 2016, and then the following year, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and also in 2016, looks like we're going to have Captain America 3. So there you go. Actually slotted movies.
So all of those are 2016 because Star Wars is being released next year, and they don't want to compete. That's what's happening.
You've got Avengers and Ant-Man in 15.
You do? Okay. Yeah. But that's more summer. I guess Star Wars is December, right?
I have no idea.
I think so.
I'm sure the nerds are yelling at us through the time stream since we do not know the exact release dates of these movies.
Because we should know everything.
Yes, but as Dorina said, come at us, nerds. Yeah, nerd on nerd violence, that's a different topic. All right, well, I think we got to wrap it up here as we started late, but we must finish not too late either.
By the way, I got it. December 18th, 2015, Star Wars.
Okay.
That was right, December. I know stuff.
Yes. I should put that on the Google calendar. All right. Cool. Well, I want to thank Dorina for coming in at the last minute to talk about her point of view about Guardians. I want to thank my co-host, which we are trying to do on a regular basis, assuming I don't dork up the audio like today. Thank Vanessa. Dorina can be reached on Twitter at EvilDorina, and Vanessa can be reached at Crazy4Colt. I can be reached at PT Movie Guy. Yeah, say goodnight, Dorina.
Good night, Dorina.
Say goodnight, Vanessa.
I am Groot.
And I am Ben Lee, and turned down for what?